I woke up from a coma and heard my daughter-in-law say, "As soon as the old lady dies, she is going straight to a nursing home." I pretended to still be unconscious. The next day, they came to the hospital to look for me, but I was already far away, with my husband, my passport, and the letter that left them completely frozen. There are moments in life where everything changes in a single second, where the person you thought you were disappears and someone completely different is born. For me, that moment arrived in the darkness of a hospital room, with the monotonous sound of the machines and the smell of disinfectant clinging to my skin. My name is Caroline. I am 68 years old, and for 12 days I was trapped in a coma that, according to the doctors, could have killed me. A massive stroke that left me lying on the floor of my own kitchen, surrounded by the green beans I was cooking for Sunday dinner. Robert, my only son, found me hours later, or so they told me when I finally woke up. But waking up was not like in the movies. I didn't snap my eyes open or sit up in bed asking for water. It was slow, confusing, like swimming toward the surface from the bottom of a dark lake. First, I heard distant voices. Then I felt the weight of my own body. And finally, with an effort that seemed superhuman, I managed to crack my eyelids open just enough to see the hallway light filtering in under the door. I was alone in the room, or so I thought. Then I heard her. The voice of Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, whispering urgently into the phone. She was standing next to the window, her back to me, with that platinum blonde dyed hair that always seemed too artificial. She was wearing a wine-colored silk blouse that I had given her myself for her last birthday. "No, honey, relax," she said with that sweet voice she used when she wanted something. "The doctors said it could be any day now. It's already 12 days. Her brain is very damaged." My heart, which had barely begun to beat normally, sped up. I tried to move, to say something, but my body wouldn't respond. It was like being locked inside myself. "Listen," Vanessa continued, and her voice lost all its sweetness. It turned cold, calculating, like the edge of a knife. "As soon as the old lady dies, we are selling the house. It's $8 million, Robert, $8 million. We can pay off all the debts, buy the condo in Miami Beach we saw, and still have enough left over for the business you want to start." Every word was a stab. "What if she doesn't die?" asked my son's voice from the other end. I barely recognized it. He sounded tired, resigned. "What if she wakes up?" Vanessa let out a brief, humorless laugh. "Well, then we put Plan B into action, my love. I already spoke with that lawyer your cousin recommended. If she wakes up with brain damage, we declare her incompetent and take control of her assets anyway. And if by some miracle she wakes up fine—" She paused, and my blood ran cold. "Well, there are cheap nursing homes in the outskirts of Detroit. For $3,500 a month they'll keep her, and we still get the house. She has lived her life after all." The vital signs monitor began to beep faster. Vanessa turned, startled, but I had already closed my eyes completely. I heard her heels click closer to the bed. I felt her breath, smelling of mint gum, near my face. "Mrs. Caroline?" she whispered. "Can you hear me?" I didn't move. I didn't breathe any deeper. I turned to stone. After what felt like an eternity, I heard her walk away and leave the room. The door closed with a soft click, and there, in that self-imposed darkness, with my eyelids squeezed shut and my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces, I made the most important decision of my life. I wasn't going to wake up. Not yet. First, I was going to listen, to observe, to understand exactly what kind of monsters I had raised. Because if there was one thing I had learned in my 68 years, it was this: never underestimate a woman who has more to lose than her own life. And I had already lost everything in that moment. The only thing I had left was my dignity. And that, I swear to you, no one was going to take from me. If this story has captivated you from the very first second, subscribe to this channel to keep hearing real confessions that will give you goosebumps. Give it a like if you have ever felt betrayed by your own flesh and blood. Because what comes next, you will never forget. While I remained motionless in that hospital bed, pretending to be in a coma, my mind began to trace every moment that had brought me there, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dollar I spent thinking I was building a future for my son. Robert was born when I was just 28 years old. His father, Harold, abandoned us 6 months later. He disappeared one morning, taking the $15,000 we had saved and leaving me a note on the kitchen table. I'm not ready to be a father. Forgive me. That simple. That cruel. I was left alone in a small attic room in the Lower East Side neighborhood of New York, with a baby crying from hunger and a future that looked like a dead end. But I didn't give up. Never. I started selling breakfast burritos in the mornings. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, with Robert strapped to my back in a wool shawl my mother gave me before she died. I prepared 50 green chili burritos, 50 sausage and egg burritos, 30 sweet potato burritos. I sold them on the corner of Fifth Avenue before dawn, when the commuters rushed toward the subway. I earned between $300 and $450 a day. It wasn't much, but it was enough. In the afternoons, I cleaned houses. 3 houses, Monday through Friday. Swollen knees, hands cracked from the bleach, a back that cracked every time I stood up. But every time Robert hugged me and said, "I love you, Mommy," every pang of pain was worth it. I enrolled him in the neighborhood public elementary school, then in junior high. He was always a good student, diligent, responsible. All the teachers congratulated me. "Mrs. Caroline, your son has a future," they would say. And I swelled with pride. When Robert turned 18 and got into the public university to study business administration, I cried tears of joy. We were poor, yes, but my son was going to be a professional. He was going to have what I never had. During those 4 years, I worked harder than ever. I no longer just sold burritos and cleaned houses. I also ironed other people's clothes on the weekends. Robert needed books, transportation, food, and I gave him everything. Everything. I never went out with anyone. I never bought new clothes for myself. I never went to the movies or a fair. My entire life revolved around my son. He was my project, my reason for existing. When he graduated, I managed to save $450,000. I was 40 years old then, and that $450,000 represented 8 years of savings. 8 years of saving every coin, denying myself every pleasure, eating meatloaf and mac and cheese so my money would grow. I gave it all to him for the down payment on his first condo, a small but decent place in the Queensboro. "Mommy, I promise I'll pay you back every single dollar," he swore to me with tears in his eyes. "You'll see, I'm going to succeed and give you everything you deserve." He never paid me back a single cent, but I didn't care. Seeing him established, with a job as a sales manager at a cell phone company, was enough. 3 years later, he met Vanessa at an office party. She was pretty, I can't deny that. Tall, slender, with that kind of beauty that looks straight out of a magazine. She worked as a receptionist in a dental office and talked about her dreams of owning her own spa. She came from a family in New Jersey who, I later learned, had kicked her out of the house over problems that were never clear to me. From the first day I met her, something in my gut twisted. It wasn't her appearance, it was her gaze, cold, calculating, as if she were evaluating the worth of everything in my house while having coffee in my living room. "Mrs. Caroline," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "what a lovely home you have, and this antique bookcase is gorgeous. Is it mahogany?" "It was my mother's," I replied proudly. "It's more than 60 years old." "It must be worth a fortune," she commented, running her fingers over the wood. Robert begged me to accept her. "Mom, she's different. She makes me happy. Give me a chance to be happy." And I, like the fool I was, said yes. They got married 6 months later, in a small ceremony that I paid for. $95,000 for the venue, the food, her dress, and his suit. Vanessa wanted an elegant wedding, and Robert had no savings because, as he confessed to me, embarrassed, he had had some unexpected expenses with his credit cards. "Don't worry, son," I said, hugging him. "That's what mothers are for." A year after the marriage, Robert lost his job. The company closed operations in the United States. He fell into a terrible depression. Vanessa began to pressure him, to complain, to threaten to leave him if he didn't find work soon. "Mom," he called me one night, crying, "can we stay with you for a while, just until I find something new? I swear it will be temporary." My house was modest, but comfortable. 2 stories in the Brooklyn neighborhood that I had bought 15 years ago, with a small inheritance a great aunt left me. It had 3 bedrooms, a patio with hydrangeas, and a dining room that fit the whole family. "Of course, my love," I told him without thinking. "This is your home." That while turned into 3 years. 3 years in which Vanessa took over my house. She changed the curtains without asking me, moved my furniture, put her things in my closet because she needed more space, invited her friends over, and they left everything a mess, and I cleaned up after them without saying a word. Robert found a job after 8 months, but they never talked about leaving, and I never dared to ask them to. I was afraid of losing my son, afraid of being alone in that big house. Then, 2 years ago, something wonderful happened. I met Ernest, but that is a story that still hurts to remember. Because when I finally found happiness, my own family forced me to destroy it. For 5 more days, I lay in that bed pretending to be unconscious. 5 days that felt eternal, where every second was a battle against my own body that wanted to scream, cry, get up, and confront those 2 vipers I called family. But I remained quiet, motionless, learning. On the 2nd day, Vanessa arrived early, around 9 o'clock in the morning, when the hospital was just beginning its daily routine. I heard her heels tapping on the hallway before she entered. This time, she wasn't alone. "Look, Denise, I'm serious," she was saying to someone. "Come in, she won't find out anything." Another woman entered with her, by the sound of her voice, young, maybe Vanessa's age, in her 30s. "Are you sure? I feel bad doing this," said this Denise. "Oh, please, the old lady doesn't even know. Look at her, she's practically dead." Those words, practically dead, spoken with such coldness as one talks about the weather. I felt the bed move. Vanessa was rummaging in the bedside table next to my head. I heard the sound of drawers opening. "See? She had her wallet here when they brought her in. Good thing Robert had the sense to bring it home." The sound of a purse being opened. "Look, here are the house keys. And this is gold, my chain. The chain with the St. Jude medal that my mother gave me when I turned 15. The only piece of real value I had." "Vanessa, you can't take that from her," Denise weakly protested. "Why not? When she dies, it will be mine anyway. I'm just getting a head start. Besides, I need to pawn it. We have to pay the credit card or we'll be sued." "We already owe $127,000 in credit cards." I felt rage burning inside me, but I kept my face impassive. I didn't even twitch an eyelid. "And look," Vanessa continued, now with enthusiasm, "I'm going to show you the house on video call. I already took pictures of everything for when we put it up for sale." I heard the sound of a phone being handled. "A video call connecting. Are you there yet? Perfect, look, this is the hospital. Here's the old woman, all stiff. Robert says that if she survives, she'll be a vegetable anyway, so it doesn't matter." My own son, Robert, the boy I carried on my back while selling burritos. The young man I hugged, crying when he graduated. That very son was waiting for me to die or be disabled so he could steal everything from me. "Well, enough of this," Vanessa said. "Now come on, let's go home. There's nothing to do here anyway." "The nurses already know I don't come in the afternoons because I have to work." A lie. Vanessa had stopped working a 1.5 years ago. She said she was too stressed and needed time to find herself. My pension of $6,200 a month helped maintain the house while she was finding herself. They left. And I stayed there, my heart pounding so hard I feared the machines would betray my conscious state. But the worst came that same night. Around 11 o'clock, when the hospital was silent and I could only hear the distant murmur of the nurses at their station, Robert entered my room alone. My son, my only son. He sat in the chair next to my bed. I heard his heavy, tired breathing. For a moment, I thought maybe he had come to say goodbye, to tell me he loved me, to ask for forgiveness for everything. How naive I was. He took out his cell phone. He dialed a number. "Mr. Baker, good evening. I apologize for the late hour." "Yes, this is Robert Smith, Caroline Jones's son. Exactly. The lady with the stroke. Look, I need to ask you some urgent questions." A long pause while he listened. "How much time has to pass before I can legally declare my mother incompetent if she wakes up with brain damage?" "I see. And if she wakes up fine? Is there any way to—" Another pause. Longer. I felt like I was suffocating. I understand. Yes, she has a house in her name valued at approximately $7–8 million according to the last property tax assessment. No, she doesn't have a will, at least not that I know of. Exactly, I'm her only child. And how much would your services cost me to handle all this? Silence, then a sigh. Perfect. $85,000 plus tax, no problem. I can advance them to you as soon as we sell. As soon as I sell the property. Yes, I understand that technically it's still hers, but you understand the situation. The lady is already 68 years old. Her pension is a pittance, barely $6,200. It makes no sense to keep her if she ends up with brain damage. She would be more of a nuisance than anything. A nuisance. That word echoed in my head like a gunshot. To my son, I was a nuisance, a burden, an obstacle between him and his inheritance. Look, counselor, Robert continued, and his voice became harder, colder. I'll be honest with you. My wife and I have serious debts. We owe $127,000 on credit cards, plus $43,000 on a personal loan. If my mother wakes up and regains control of her things, we're never going to get out of this hole. She was, too controlling with her money. She never really wanted to help us. Lie after lie after lie. So we're agreed. You start preparing the papers. If she doesn't wake up or wakes up poorly within a week, we proceed with the legal incapacitation. And if she wakes up fine, well, we'll find another solution. There are cheap nursing homes where we can put her. For $3,500 a month, they'll keep her, and we take control of the house. He hung up. He stayed sitting there for a few more minutes, in silence. Then I heard something I will never forget. I heard him cry, but he wasn't crying for me. He was crying for himself, for his situation, for his debts. "I'm sorry, Mom," he finally whispered, "but I can't take it anymore. Vanessa is right. You've lived long enough. Now it's our turn." He got up. I felt his lips graze my forehead in a cold, mechanical kiss, and he left. That night, when I was completely alone, I opened my eyes in the darkness. Tears ran down my cheeks, soaking the pillow. I didn't make a sound. I didn't move more than to breathe. But in that moment, in that dark room that smelled of sickness and betrayal, a new Caroline was born, one who had nothing left to lose, one who was going to fight. On the third day of my acting, I met Lucy. She was a young nurse, about 32 years old, with her hair pulled back in a high ponytail and honey-colored eyes that seemed to see beyond the obvious. She wore the hospital's mint green uniform and worn white sneakers that squeaked slightly against the floor. The first time she came into my room was during the evening shift. My eyes were closed, as always, controlling my breathing, maintaining the perfect rhythm of someone in a coma. I had perfected the art of appearing absent. I felt her hands checking the IV, adjusting the sheets. But then she did something different. She stopped next to my bed and stood there, in silence, for several seconds. "How strange," she murmured to herself. She checked the vital signs monitor. I heard the sound of pages turning, probably my file. "Your vital signs improve when you are alone," she said in a low voice, thinking aloud. "But when your family arrives, your blood pressure rises, your heart rate speeds up, as if—" She stopped abruptly. "As if you were listening," she whispered. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to remain calm. I didn't move, not a muscle. Lucy left the room without saying anything else, but I knew she had seen something, and I was afraid. For the next few hours, I tried to convince myself that it had been my imagination, that the nurse suspected nothing, that everything was going according to my plan. But that same night, around 11:30, when the hospital was plunged into that particular silence of the early morning, I heard the door open very carefully. Soft steps, a presence approaching my bed. Then I felt a warm hand take mine, and a soft voice, barely a whisper, said, "Ma'am, if you're listening to me, if you're awake, even if you're pretending not to be, move your index finger. Just a little. No one else is watching. Just me. And I swear on my mother that I won't say anything that would put you in danger." The world stopped. My brain screamed not to do it, that it was a trap, that I would be discovered. But something in that woman's voice, something in her genuine tone, made me trust her. I moved my index finger, barely a millimeter. I felt Lucy hold her breath. "My God," she whispered. "I knew it. I knew it." She squeezed my hand gently. "Ma'am, I don't know what's going on, but I've been working here for 10 years and I've seen many things. Your vital signs don't lie. You are conscious, and something tells me you have your reasons for pretending." I opened my eyes slowly. It was the first time in 3 days that I had looked directly at someone. Lucy was leaning over me, her eyes bright with emotion and something else, compassion. "Help," I whispered in a hoarse voice. "Please." Lucy looked toward the door, checking that no one was coming, and then looked back at me. "What do you need? Are you in danger?" Tears began to stream down my face. I couldn't hold them back anymore. "My family," I said, my voice breaking. "They are waiting for me to die. They want to steal everything from me, my son, my own son." I couldn't continue. The sobs choked me. Lucy hugged me, just like that, a stranger who became my salvation in that moment. She let me cry on her shoulder while stroking my hair like a daughter would. "Calm down, ma'am. Breathe. You're safe. I'm going to help you." "Why?" I asked her when I managed to calm down a little. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Lucy sat on the edge of my bed and looked at me with deep sadness in her eyes. "Because 5 years ago, my grandmother went through something similar. She had a heart attack, and while she was in this very hospital, her youngest son, my Uncle Arthur, tried to get her to sign some papers to keep her house. He told her they were medical authorizations. She signed because she trusted him." She wiped away a tear. "When she left the hospital, she had nothing left. My uncle had sold the house, taken her $320,000 in savings, and left her living in a small attic room he rented to her out of pity. My grandmother died 2 years later. More of sadness than anything else. I never forgave myself for not being there to protect her." She took my hand again. "I'm not going to let the same thing happen to you. Tell me what you need, and I'll help you. But you have to trust me." And that's how Lucy became my accomplice, my guardian angel. For the next 2 days, she became my eyes and ears. She got my cell phone for me when Vanessa left it forgotten at home. She brought me the charger hidden in her bag. She helped me make quick calls when no one else was around, keeping watch at the door. It was Lucy who told me what she had heard in the hallway. Vanessa talking to a friend about my house furniture. The antique mahogany bookcase can easily be sold for $120,000. There's an antique dealer in Greenwich Village who pays well. And my mother-in-law's china sets. Those are collectibles. Each piece is worth about $3,500, and there are at least 30 pieces. It was Lucy who intercepted a phone conversation from Robert. "Yes, counselor, I already spoke with the appraiser. The house can be sold for $7.8 million if we sell it quickly. It's a steal because it's well located in Brooklyn. It would normally be worth more, but we need urgent liquidity." And it was Lucy who gave me the final push I needed. "Mrs. Caroline," she told me one night, when she was helping me exercise my legs so I would regain strength, "you don't owe them anything, absolutely nothing. I know he is your son and it hurts, but a son who plans this is not a son. He is a stranger with your blood." "But he's the only thing I have," I whispered, my voice broken. "No," she replied firmly. "You have yourself, your dignity, your life, and those 68 years you lived with effort and sacrifice. That is yours, and no one can take it from you, not even him." That night, I made the most difficult decision of my life. "Lucy," I told her, "I need you to help me with one more thing, something big." She looked at me with determination. "Tell me what you need." "I need to get out of here without anyone knowing, and I need to do it soon, before it's too late." Lucy nodded slowly. "Do you have somewhere to go? Do you have someone who can help you?" I closed my eyes. An image came to my mind, a face I had tried to forget for the last 2 years, a man with light brown eyes and a sincere smile who had made me feel alive again. "Yes," I whispered. "I think so." "Then tell me his name," Lucy said, taking out her cell phone, "and I'll call him." I took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Ernest Miller. His number must be in my cell phone, in the favorite contacts." Lucy searched for the name and found it. She passed me the phone with trembling hands. I dialed. 3 rings, 4. I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then I heard his voice. Hello? And after 2 years of forced silence, 2 years of missing him every night, 2 years of regretting choosing my son's approval over my own happiness, I said, Ernest, it's me. It's Carrie, and I need you. Ernest Miller entered my life exactly 2 years and 4 months ago, in a place so ordinary that it seemed impossible that something extraordinary would begin there. The Chelsea Market, a Saturday morning. I was buying tomatoes when we collided, literally. He was distracted, looking at his shopping list, and I was in a hurry, trying to reach the freshest avocados. My bag fell, the tomatoes rolled on the floor, and we both bent down at the same time to pick them up. Our hands touched over the same tomato. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said with a smile that lit up his whole face. "I'm running around like a headless chicken, looking everywhere but where I'm walking." I laughed. It had been so long since I had laughed so heartily. "Don't worry, I'm not looking either. I'm rushing around like the devil is after me." We stood up at the same time. He was 71 years old then, but he looked strong, vital. White hair perfectly combed back, light brown eyes that shone with intelligence, and large working man's hands. He wore a gray wool sweater and clean denim pants. He looked good, well kept. "May I buy you a coffee?" he suddenly asked, as an apology for almost knocking me over. I should have said no. I should have made up an excuse and gone on my way. But something in his eyes, something in his sincere smile, made me accept. We ended up at the corner coffee shop with 2 cups of hot drip coffee and a plate of cinnamon rolls that he insisted on paying for. And we talked. God, how we talked. He told me he had been a widower for 3 years, that his wife Elizabeth had died of cancer after 45 years of marriage, that he had 2 daughters who lived in Denver with their own families and visited him every 2 or 3 months, that he had been a middle school teacher his entire life, teaching history and math, that he now lived on his pension of $12,400 a month and some savings he had carefully put away. "I have a small house in Santa Fe," he told me, his eyes shining with excitement. "I bought it 15 years ago when I was still working. It's small, but it has a beautiful garden where Elizabeth planted purple lilacs. I haven't been back since she died. I'm afraid to go alone and feel her absence in every corner." I told him my story, not all of it, not that first time, but I did tell him about Robert, how I had raised him alone, my work selling burritos, the house I had bought with so much effort. "You are a very strong woman," he said, taking my hand across the table. "It shows in your eyes, in the way you talk about your life. Not many people can say they built something from nothing." That coffee turned into 2, then a walk through the market, then a goodbye with the promise to see each other the following week. And that's how it all began. For 6 months, Ernest and I saw each other every Saturday. We went to the market, we walked through Central Park, we visited small museums, we ate tacos at street stalls. He gave me flowers he bought at the subway station, always sunflowers because I once told him I liked them. I made him burritos and brought them to him in a Tupperware because he confessed he missed home cooking. There was nothing urgent about our relationship. There was no rush. It was a friendship that gradually turned into something deeper without us realizing it. One day, after 8 months of seeing each other, he kissed me. It was under a dogwood tree in Central Park, with the white blossoms falling on us like confetti. And in that kiss, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. "Caroline," he told me that afternoon, his voice trembling with emotion. "I know we are both older. I know life has already dealt us its blows. But I want to be with you, not as friends. I want to wake up every morning knowing I can call you, see you, hug you. I want you to be my partner." I cried with happiness. At 66, I thought romantic love was something that wouldn't happen to me again. And there was this wonderful man asking me to build something together. "Yes," I replied. "Yes, I want to be with you." That night I told Robert. I thought he would be happy for me. I thought he would understand that his mother also had the right to be happy. I was completely wrong. "A boyfriend?" Robert said with a tone I had never heard from him. Mockery mixed with contempt. "Mom, please, you're already 66 years old. Don't you think you're a little old for that nonsense?" "It's not nonsense, son. Ernest is a good man. He's educated, hard-working, has his own house, his own income." "Oh, sure," Vanessa interrupted from the sofa, without even looking up from her cell phone. "He probably wants your house, Carrie. All lonely old men are like that. They look for a widow with property so they don't die in poverty." "That's not true," I replied, feeling rage rise in my throat. "Ernest has his own pension, his own house in Santa Fe." "A house in Santa Fe," Robert scoffed. "How impressive. I bet it's a little mud hut. Mom, use your head. That man is taking advantage of you." "You don't know him, and we don't want to know him," Vanessa cut in. "Look, Carrie, be realistic. What will people think? Mrs. Caroline at 66 walking around with some old guy all over the neighborhood? It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing." "I don't care what people think." "Well, you should care," Robert said, getting up from the couch. His voice had become cold, threatening. "Because those people know us too, and I won't let you make a fool of yourself with some opportunistic old man while you live under this roof." "It is my roof," I replied, my voice trembling. "This is my house." The silence that followed was terrifying. "You know what, Mom?" Robert said after a moment that seemed eternal. "You're right. It's your house. And if you want to fill it with lecherous old men, go ahead. But then we're leaving. And don't call me asking for help when that old man leaves you with nothing, because I warned you." They went to their room, slamming the door. Vanessa gave me a look of satisfaction before following him. That night I cried until I fell asleep. And the next day, when Ernest called me to invite me to breakfast, I told him I couldn't see him anymore. "Why, Carrie? Did I do something wrong?" "No, Ernest, you didn't do anything wrong. But my family, my son doesn't accept our relationship, and I can't lose him. He's the only thing I have." "You have me," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." And I hung up. For 2 years, I convinced myself that I had done the right thing, that a mother should sacrifice for her children. That romantic love at my age was a luxury I couldn't afford. But now, lying in that hospital bed, with the phone to my trembling ear and Ernest's voice on the other end, I understood the magnitude of my mistake. "Carrie? Is that really you? My God, I thought... They told me you were in a coma. Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm at the General Hospital, Ernest, and I need your help. Please, I need to get out of here before it's too late." "I'm coming right now." "No," I interrupted him. "You can't just come. Robert and Vanessa can't know I'm conscious. They are waiting for me to die so they can take my house, everything." Silence on the other end, then a deep sigh. "Tell me what you need, my love. Anything." And there, with Lucy holding my hand and Ernest listening intently on the phone, we began to plan my escape, my second chance, my silent revenge. The next 2 days were the most intense of my life. While I remained motionless in that bed, pretending to be in a coma, Ernest, Lucy, and I coordinated every detail of my escape as if we were spies in a movie. But before I could leave, I needed to know exactly what they were planning. I needed proof. I needed to understand the magnitude of the betrayal so I could protect myself legally. On the 4th day, Vanessa arrived earlier than usual. It was barely 8 o'clock in the morning. She was accompanied by a man I didn't know. By his manner of speaking, educated but calculating, I knew immediately that he was the lawyer. "Counselor Baker, come in, Vanessa said, with that syrupy voice she used when she wanted to impress. "Look, there she is, 12 days like this, not moving. The doctors say that even if she wakes up, she will probably have severe brain damage." "Did the doctors tell you that specifically?" the lawyer asked. "Well, not in those exact words, but it's understood. A 68-year-old woman with such a strong stroke. You know how these things are." I heard the sound of papers being handled, a chair being pulled up to my bed. "Mrs. Smith, I understand the urgency, but I need to be clear with you and your husband. If Mrs. Caroline wakes up with her faculties intact, there is no legal way to take control of her properties without her consent. But if she wakes up with brain damage, then yes?" Vanessa asked, with an almost hopeful tone that made my stomach turn. "In that case, your husband, as the only child, could request a declaration of incapacitation. The process takes between 3 and 6 months and requires constant medical evaluations. I can expedite it, but I cannot invent a diagnosis that doesn't exist. And how much would all that cost? My fees would be $85,000 plus tax. That includes all the legal procedures, the court appearances before the judge, and the necessary documentation for your husband to take control of the house and bank accounts. $85,000 to steal my life. Perfect, Vanessa said without hesitation. My husband is going to deposit an advance to you, right, honey? Only then did I realize Robert was also there. He hadn't said a single word. My son, my only son, was standing there, in silence, allowing all this to happen. Robert, right? The lawyer asked. I need you to sign these papers. They are authorizations for me to act on your behalf when the time comes. What if my mother wakes up fine? Robert asked, in a voice so low I barely heard him. What if she recovers completely? The silence that followed was long, uncomfortable. Then my son, the lawyer replied with a blood-chilling tone. You will have to convince her to give you a voluntary power of attorney. Or, he paused, we can explore other options. There are senior living residences where, for patient safety reasons, family members can make certain administrative decisions. Once she is admitted, it would be easier to manage her properties. Are you talking about putting her in a nursing home against her will? Robert asked. I didn't say that, the lawyer quickly replied. I'm just mentioning options that other clients have explored. But for that, you would need 2 doctors to certify that she represents a danger to herself, and those opinions, well, they can be facilitated with the right contacts. Vanessa let out a nervous giggle. God, counselor, it sounds like we're planning something bad. We just want to protect the family assets. Of course, Mrs. Smith, and that's exactly what we will do. But I need you both to understand that this process must be handled with great discretion. If anyone, any distant relative or nosy neighbor, were to report something irregular, the entire process would be enormously complicated. There is no one else, Robert said. My mom doesn't have living siblings. Her parents died years ago, and she doesn't have close friends. She was always very lonely. A lie. She had friends from the market, neighbors she had coffee with, a group of ladies she went to church with on Sundays. But Robert and Vanessa had gradually pushed me away from all of them during these last 3 years. Perfect, the lawyer said. Then there will be no problems. Now let me explain to you about the sale of the property. Once we have legal control, we can put it on the market immediately. I have a client who is looking for exactly that type of house in Brooklyn. He is willing to pay $7.8 million in cash without intermediaries, closing the deal in less than a month. 7.8? Vanessa asked. Doesn't the house value at about $9 million? Technically, yes, according to the property tax appraisal. But in a quick sale, without the owner present to negotiate, it's normal to lose between 10 and 15% of the value. Besides, my client would pay in cash. That is worth gold these days. And of that $7.8 million, how much would you keep? Robert asked with a tone of mistrust. My standard commission is 8%. That would be $624,000. Plus the $85,000 for the legal procedures, we are talking about you receiving approximately $7 million net. $7 million. My house, my legacy. The result of 40 years of work, of sleepless nights, of cracked hands and aching knees, all reduced to a figure they were already dividing mentally. And the furniture? Vanessa added. The house has very valuable antique furniture, a mahogany bookcase worth about $120,000, collectible china sets. You can sell that on your own, the lawyer interrupted. I only handle the property, but I recommend you do it quickly, before the neighbors start asking questions about where Mrs. Caroline is. It was at that moment that Lucy entered the room. Her entrance was perfectly synchronized, just as we had planned. She was carrying a tray with medications. Excuse me, she said in a professional voice. I need to check the patient and change the IV. Could you wait outside for a few minutes? Of course, Vanessa said, getting up. We're finished here anyway. Counselor, we'll wait for you at the coffee shop downstairs to sign the papers. The 3 of them left. As soon as the door closed, I opened my eyes. Lucy rushed toward me. Did you record everything? I whispered. She took out her cell phone from her uniform pocket. On the screen, the recording counter was still running, almost 20 minutes of audio. "Everything," she replied with a triumphant smile. "Every word." "God bless you, Lucy," I said with tears in my eyes. She put the cell phone away and began to check on me for real, in case someone decided to return. "Mrs. Carey, Ernest called me an hour ago. He has everything ready, the private ambulance, the medical papers signed by 2 certified doctors stating that you are in your right mind, and the tickets. Everything." "The tickets?" "For Santa Fe, by bus. They leave tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning from the Port Authority terminal. He says his house is ready to receive you." My heart beat faster. Tomorrow. Everything would be tomorrow. "And the letter?" I asked. "I have it here," Lucy replied, taking a manila envelope from her scrub pocket. "I wrote it exactly as you dictated, 3 pages, with everything." I took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was my complete declaration, the conversations I had heard, the exact dates, the names of the lawyer and everyone involved. We also included screenshots of the statements for my supplementary credit card, the one I had given Robert only for emergencies, and which he had used to spend $89,000 in 6 months. Meals at expensive restaurants, designer clothes, even a television for $42,000 that now hung in his room. The letter ended with specific instructions. The house was being transferred to an irrevocable trust that I would administer. When I died, it would be donated to a foundation for older women in vulnerable situations. Robert would inherit nothing. "Tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon," I told Lucy. "When they come for their usual visit, you hand them this letter, not a minute before. I need at least 6 hours head start." "Don't worry, ma'am. At 2 o'clock sharp, not a second sooner." That night, when I was left alone in the room, I didn't pretend to be unconscious. I sat up in bed for the first time in 5 days. My whole body ached, but it was a pain that reminded me I was alive. I dialed Ernest's number from Lucy's cell phone. "Carey?" "Get me out of here tomorrow, my love," I told him in a firm voice. "I can't take it anymore. I don't want to keep pretending." "I'll be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. The ambulance, the papers, everything. And Carey?" "Yes?" "I should never have let you go 2 years ago. This time, no one is going to separate us. I promise." I hung up and lay down in bed again, looking at the white hospital ceiling. In less than 12 hours, my life would change forever. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I had hope. But before I could execute my escape, destiny had one last stab ready for me, one that almost made me change my mind, one that showed me with absolute clarity that the son I had raised no longer existed. That same night, around 10 o'clock, when the hospital was plunged into that heavy silence that only exists in the hallways of a place where people fight between life and death, Robert returned. He came alone. I heard his footsteps dragging down the hallway, slow, tired. He entered the room and closed the door carefully, as if he didn't want to bother anyone. He sat in the chair next to my bed and for several minutes said nothing. He just breathed, heavy, irregular breathing, as if he had been crying. I kept my eyes closed, my body motionless, but my heart was beating so hard that I feared he could hear it. "Mom," he finally whispered. His voice sounded broken, vulnerable, like when he was a child and had nightmares. I waited. I wanted to believe he had come to ask for forgiveness, that he had thought better of it, that the good son, the one I knew, the one I had hugged, crying when he graduated from college, still existed somewhere inside that 40-year-old man sitting next to my bed. "I don't know if you can hear me," he continued. "The doctors say probably not, that your brain is too damaged, but I need to tell you this anyway." He paused for a long time. I heard the sound of his hand rubbing his face. "I'm tired, Mom. So tired. I'm 40 years old, and I have nothing. Nothing that is truly mine. The condo you helped me buy, I lost it 3 years ago because I couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. The credit cards are maxed out. I owe $127,000 that I have no way to pay. Vanessa pressures me every day. She tells me I'm a failure, that her friend married a successful businessman while she got stuck with a good-for-nothing who can't even support her." His voice broke. "And she's right, Mom. I'm a failure. I lost my job a 1.5 years ago. Not the one from 3 years ago. I got that one back. But I lost it again. And this time I didn't quit or get laid off. They fired me. For unjustified absences, for being late, for low performance. They fired me like trash. My heart sank. I didn't know any of that. Nothing. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. I told you I was going to work every day, but in reality, I spent my time in parks, in cheap coffee shops, watching the hours pass until it was time to return home and pretend I had had a normal day. Vanessa figured it out 6 months ago, and instead of supporting me, she threatened to leave me if I didn't get money from wherever. My son, my little one, suffering in silence while I cooked in my kitchen without knowing anything. Then we came up with the idea, he continued, and his voice changed. It became harder. Your house, Mom. It's worth millions. Millions that you don't need. You live alone in that huge house. You have a pension you barely use. You don't travel. You don't treat yourself. You don't have a social life. You just exist. And we are drowning. I felt something inside me break. Vanessa said it would be easier if you weren't here, and I refused at first. I swear to you, Mom, I refused at first. But then I started thinking about it, calculating it. You're 68. Statistically, how much time do you have left? 10 years? 15 at most? And in those 10 or 15 years, we're going to keep sinking into debt, despair, misery. He got up from the chair. I heard his steps approaching the window. And then you had the stroke. And the first thing I thought, God forgive me, the first thing I thought was, it's a sign. As if the universe were telling us it was the time, that your hour had come, and our opportunity. Tears began to roll down my closed cheeks. I couldn't hold them back. But now you're here, in this bed, and I don't know what to think. Because a part of me, the part that is still your son, wants you to wake up, wants to hug you and ask for forgiveness and tell you we're going to find another solution. But the other part, the part that is desperate and scared and angry at life, he trailed off. A long, horrible silence. That part wants nature to take its course. My heart stopped. The doctor said there's a 60% chance that if you wake up, you'll have permanent brain damage, that you'll need constant care. Vanessa says it would be better for everyone, even for you, that you wouldn't suffer like this, that if you don't wake up in the next few days, we should tell the doctors not to resuscitate you if your heart stops. He signed my death sentence. My own son had just signed my death sentence. I already signed the papers, Mom, he whispered. Yesterday. A do not resuscitate order. The doctor asked me 3 times if I was sure, and I told him yes, that you wouldn't want to live like that, that you were a dignified woman who would rather die than be a burden. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning. Forgive me, he finally said. Forgive me for being so weak. Forgive me for not being the son you deserved. Forgive me for this. I felt his lips touch my forehead. A cold, mechanical, empty kiss. I loved you, Mom. At some point, I loved you very much. And he left. I stayed there, in the darkness, with tears soaking the pillow and my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. For hours I couldn't move. I couldn't think. Just feel that deep pain, that immense emptiness of understanding that the child I had carried on my back, that I had fed with my own sacrifice, that I had protected from all harm, that child no longer existed. In his place, there was a stranger, a desperate man, yes, a weak man too, but above all, a man capable of watching me die to save himself. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, when the pain became unbearable, I dialed Ernest's number with trembling hands. "Carrie? What happened? Are you okay?" "No," I whispered, my voice broken. "I'm not okay, but I need to get out of here tomorrow, Ernest. I need to leave before it's too late." "Everything is ready, my love, at 6 o'clock in the morning." "No," I interrupted him. "Earlier, at 5:30, please." "What happened, Carrie? You're scaring me." "My son signed a do not resuscitate order. If my heart stops, the doctors are going to let me die. Ernest, they are going to let me die." Silence on the other end. Then, a deep breath. "I'll be there at 5:30 sharp, and I swear by all that is sacred that no one is going to touch you. No one." I hung up and curled up in that cold hospital bed. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be completely alone. Not physically, but in my soul. I had lost my son long before that stroke. I had lost him little by little, without realizing it, while he smiled at me and called me Mommy and let me cook for him on Sundays. I had lost him the day he chose Vanessa over me, the day he let her disrespect me in my own house, the day he allowed them to treat me as a burden instead of the woman who gave him everything. And now, in this dark room, with the sound of the machines marking every beat of my betrayed heart, I made a decision. I was no longer his mother. I owed him nothing. No love, no loyalty, no forgiveness. As of tomorrow, Caroline Miller was going to live for herself. For the first time in 68 years, I was going to choose myself, and that choice began with an escape. Lucy's alarm clock went off at 5 o'clock in the morning. Not that we needed it. Neither of us had really slept. She arrived at my room at 5:10, dressed in her uniform but with a backpack slung over her shoulder. Her face showed the tension of what we were about to do. "Ready, Mrs. Carey?" she whispered, locking the door. "Ready," I replied, though my voice trembled. Lucy took clothes out of her backpack: gray sweatpants, a hooded sweatshirt, athletic shoes. Nothing flashy, nothing to draw attention. "I need you to get dressed quickly. Ernest will arrive in 15 minutes. I got out of bed. My legs trembled at first, after so many days without really using them. Lucy held my arm. "Calm down, little by little." I dressed with clumsy hands. Every movement was an effort, but the adrenaline kept me focused. Lucy helped me put on the sneakers, tied my hair in a ponytail, and pulled up my hood. "Done. Now you look like you're going home after visiting a relative." At 5:25, Lucy's cell phone vibrated, a message from Ernest. "I'm in the parking lot, white ambulance, license plate NVX 4782, waiting." "It's time," Lucy said, taking my hand. "Do you remember the plan?" "I remember." We left the room. The hallway was almost empty. Only one nurse at the control station, focused on her paperwork. Lucy greeted her naturally. "I'm going to walk Mrs. Garcia to the bathroom. I'll be back in 5 minutes." The nurse raised her hand without even looking at us. She was used to seeing Lucy helping patients. We walked toward the elevator. Every step felt eternal. I expected someone to stop us at any moment, for an alarm to go off, for Robert or Vanessa to appear. The elevator arrived, empty. We got in. Lucy pressed the basement button. "The ambulance parking is on basement level 2, she explained. "There's less security there at this hour." The doors closed. The elevator descended. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. When the doors opened, the cold air of the parking lot hit my face. It smelled of gasoline and disinfectant. There were 3 ambulances parked. One of them had its lights on. "That's the one," Lucy said, pointing. The back door of the ambulance opened. Ernest jumped out, and seeing him after 2 years almost made me cry. He was wearing a denim jacket, and his white hair was perfectly combed. His eyes filled with tears when he saw me. "Carrie," he whispered, running toward me. He hugged me. And in that embrace, all the pain, all the fear, all the betrayal of the last few days exploded. I cried on his shoulder while he held me as if I were made of glass. "There, my love. You're safe now. You're with me." "Forgive me for interrupting," Lucy said urgently, "but we need to move. The shift changes in 20 minutes, and there will be more staff." Ernest helped me into the ambulance. Inside, there was a prepared gurney with clean sheets. The driver, a man in his 50s with a mustache, greeted us with a nod. "Ma'am, welcome. I'm Mike, a certified paramedic. Mr. Ernest paid me $22,000 for this private transfer. We are going straight to a private clinic in Greenwich Village where 2 doctors are going to certify your state of health and your mental capacity. Everything legal, everything documented." I got onto the gurney. Not because I needed to, but because it was part of the plan. If anyone saw the ambulance leave, it had to look like a normal transfer. Lucy got in with me. She took a folder from her backpack. "Here are all your medical documents from the hospital, certified copies, your history, the stroke studies, everything. Also, here is the copy of the audio recording from yesterday, when your daughter-in-law and the lawyer spoke in your room. I saved it on this flash drive." She handed everything to me. Then she took out another envelope. "And this is the letter they will receive at 2:00 in the afternoon." I took it with trembling hands. 3 pages that contained my truth, my declaration, my liberation. "Lucy," I said, my voice breaking, "how will I ever repay you for everything you've done for me?" She smiled and squeezed my hand. "Mrs. Carey, my grandmother took care of me my whole childhood while my mother worked. She taught me to read, to cook, she took me to school. When I lost her because of an abusive son, I swore that if I ever had the power to help someone in her situation, I would. You are giving me the opportunity to fulfill that promise." She leaned in and kissed my forehead. "Now go, be happy, and never sacrifice yourself again for people who don't deserve you." She got out of the ambulance. Ernest closed the back doors and got into the front with Mike. The engine started, and just like that, at 5:37 in the morning on Thursday, March 15th, I escaped the hospital. I escaped my son. I escaped the death they had planned for me. The ambulance drove her through the still dark streets of New York City. I was lying on the gurney, looking at the ceiling, feeling every bump, every turn, every second that took me away from that life. 40 minutes later, we arrived at a private clinic in Greenwich Village, small, discreet, but clean and professional. 2 doctors were waiting for me, Dr. Morris, a neurologist, and Dr. Grant, a psychiatrist. For the next 3 hours, they ran tests on me: full neurological evaluation, cognitive tests, psychological evaluation. I answered questions. I solved puzzles. I told my story. "Mrs. Caroline," Dr. Morris finally said, "your recovery from the stroke is exceptional. There is no evidence of permanent brain damage. Your memory, reasoning, and cognitive abilities are intact. You are in full use of your mental faculties." He handed me an official document, sealed and signed, a medical certificate declaring my mental competence and my ability to make decisions about my life and property. Dr. Grant added another similar document. Between the 2 of them, I had the legal protection I needed. Ernest paid the doctor's fees, $15,800 in total, money he had taken from his savings without thinking twice. "Now," he said, taking my hand, "let's go home." Not to my house in Brooklyn. That was no longer my home. That was a prison I had just escaped. We headed to the Port Authority bus terminal. Ernest had bought 2 tickets to Santa Fe, departing at 10 o'clock in the morning. First class, reclining seats, air conditioning. We arrived at the terminal at 9:15. We still had time. Ernest took me to a restaurant inside the terminal. "You need to eat something. You look very thin." I ordered chicken and green chili enchiladas and a hot coffee. It was the first real meal I had had in almost 2 weeks. Every bite tasted like freedom. While we ate, Ernest told me about his house in Santa Fe, about the garden with purple lilacs that his wife had planted, about the kind neighbors, about the market 2 blocks away where they sold the best chili in the region. "You're going to love it, Carrie. It's quiet, it's safe, and no one is going to find you there." At 5 minutes to 10, we boarded the bus. We sat together in the back. Ernest put my head on his shoulder and covered me with a soft jacket. The bus pulled out, and as we left New York City, as I watched the streets I had traveled for 68 years pass by the window, I thought of Robert. I thought of Vanessa. I thought about how at that precise moment they still believed I was unconscious in that hospital bed, unaware that their plan had fallen apart. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when they arrived for their routine visit, Lucy would hand them the letter, and then they would understand. They would understand that the old woman they wanted to kill, the mother they counted as dead, the woman they considered a nuisance, that woman had won. I fell asleep on Ernest's shoulder, the movement of the bus rocking me like a lullaby, and for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully, because finally, after so long, I was going home, to my real home. It was exactly 2:15 in the afternoon when Vanessa and Robert entered room 407 of the General Hospital. I know this because Lucy told me later, in detail, in a call she made to me that same night. According to her, Vanessa was dressed up as if she were going to a party, a pink satin blouse, tight white pants, heels. Robert was quiet, haggard, wearing the same clothes from the day before. "And now?" Vanessa asked, seeing the empty bed. "Where is she?" Lucy was standing by the window, the manila envelope in her hands. "Mrs. Caroline Miller was discharged this morning at 5:30. The silence that followed was absolute. "Discharged? How?" Robert asked, his voice trembling. "She was in a coma. The doctor said—" "The doctors were wrong," Lucy interrupted firmly. "Your mother woke up 5 days ago, completely conscious, completely lucid, and chose to keep it a secret." Vanessa approached Lucy with clenched fists. "That's impossible." "Who authorized the discharge? We are the family. No one can take her out without our consent. Your mother is a senior adult in full possession of her mental faculties. She doesn't need anyone's consent to leave. Here are the medical documents that certify it, signed by 2 independent specialists." Lucy extended the envelope to them. Robert took it with trembling hands and opened it. Inside were the medical certificates, but also something else, something they didn't expect. "My letter." Robert began to read aloud, his voice cracking with every word. "Robert and Vanessa, if you are reading this, it's because you already realize that I'm not there, that I escaped, that I fooled you just as you planned to fool me. For 5 days I stayed in that bed pretending to be unconscious while I listened to you plan my death. Yes, my death. Because that's exactly what it was. A do not resuscitate order is a death sentence disguised as compassion. I listened to every conversation, every plan, every word. Vanessa, I heard you say that as soon as the old lady died, you would sell my house for $8 million to pay your debts and go to Miami Beach. I heard you check my drawers looking for deeds. I heard you evaluate my belongings as if they were merchandise at a flea market. Robert, I heard you talk to Mr. Baker about declaring me incompetent. I heard you calculate the cost of his fees, $85,000 plus tax, to steal what took me 40 years to build. I heard you cry, not for me, but for your debts. And I heard you sign an order to let me die if my heart failed. I also discovered other things, like the $89,000 you spent in 6 months on my supplementary credit card, the one I gave you only for emergencies. Here are the attached statements. Meals at restaurants where you spent $3,200 in a single night. Designer clothes. A television for $42,000. What was the emergency, son? Your ego? Your vanity? Your inability to say no to your wife? And worst of all, I heard your confession last night, when you came alone and told me you were tired, that you were a failure, that I had lived enough, and that it was your turn. Those words broke my heart in a way I never thought possible, because I understood something I should have understood years ago. The son I raised, the good boy who loved his mother, that son died a long time ago. Maybe when he met Vanessa, maybe earlier, I don't know. But what I do know is this: you are no longer my responsibility. The house in Brooklyn, the one you coveted so much, will never belong to you. This morning, with the help of a notary that Ernest hired, I transferred the property to an irrevocable trust. I am the sole administrator while I live, and when I die, the house will be donated entirely to the Hope House Foundation, which supports older women in vulnerable situations. My bank accounts were closed. I opened new ones at a different bank with passwords you will never know. My pension of $6,200 will be deposited into my new account starting next month. The attached documents include audio recording of your conversation with Mr. Baker in my room, bank statements showing the fraudulent use of my credit card, medical certificates proving my full mental capacity, copy of the irrevocable trust, copy of the restraining order I filed this morning. Neither of you can come within 500 yards of me. If you do, you will go to jail. Robert, you were my entire world for 40 years. I gave you everything I had, and much of what I didn't have. I worked until I destroyed my body so you could have what I never had. And in return, you gave me betrayal. I don't expect you to understand the pain you caused me. I don't think you are capable of understanding it. But I want you to know this. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I need peace. I need to close this chapter of my life and start a new one. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean allowing. As of today, you no longer have a mother. I no longer have a son. We are 2 strangers who once shared blood and a last name. Nothing more. Vanessa, I never had affection for you, but I respected you because you were my son's wife. Now I see that you were exactly what my instinct told me from the first day, a calculating, cold, and manipulative woman who saw in my son someone weak she could control. And you succeeded. You turned him into someone unrecognizable. I hope the $7.8 million you expected to receive was worth it to you, because that was the price you put on my life, and you will never collect that price. Now you have two options. You can accept this situation with dignity and move on with your lives, building something for yourselves. Or you can try to look for me, harass me, or create legal problems. If you choose the second option, you should know that I have copies of all these documents with 3 different lawyers, one in New York City, one in Santa Fe, and one in Los Angeles. If anything happens to me, if I suffer an accident, if I die suspiciously, these documents will be delivered immediately to the authorities. I also recorded a full video explaining everything, which is deposited in a safe deposit box with specific instructions to open it if anything happens to me. Do not look for me. Do not call me. I no longer exist for you. Live with the consequences of your decisions. Sincerely, Caroline Miller, a woman who finally learned to choose herself. According to Lucy, when Robert finished reading, he was paralyzed. The letter fell from his hands to the floor. Vanessa picked it up and read the whole thing, her face changing color with every paragraph. "This is crazy," she finally whispered. "This crazy old woman is going to ruin us." "That crazy old woman," Lucy said in an icy voice, "is the bravest woman I have ever met. And you two are the most despicable garbage I've seen pass through this hospital. And I've seen many things." Robert collapsed into the chair where he had been sitting the night before. He began to cry, not with loud sobs, but with a silent, defeated weeping. "I lost her," he mumbled over and over. "I lost my mom." "No," Lucy corrected him. "Your mom lost you, a long time ago. She just realized it." Vanessa took out her cell phone and dialed a number. "Mr. Baker, I need you to come to the hospital urgently. We have a situation." "What do you mean you can't help us?" "Why not? A restraining order? Against who? Against us? But—" Her face went white. "I understand. Thank you." She hung up and looked at Robert. "The lawyer says the letter is legally valid, that she can do whatever she wants with her property, and that if we try anything, we could end up in jail for attempted property fraud and elder abuse." "So what do we do?" Robert asked in a desperate voice. Vanessa put her cell phone in her bag and walked toward the door. "I already know what I'm going to do. I'm leaving. I didn't marry you to live in poverty, Robert. I married you because you promised me a comfortable life. And not only did you not deliver, but now you don't even have the inheritance you assured me would come." "Vanessa, please. No. It's over. I'm going to pack my things and go to my cousin's in Philadelphia, have a good life of misery." And she left. She left Robert sitting there, surrounded by the pieces of his destroyed life. Lucy told me that he stared at the letter on the floor for almost an hour. Then he picked it up, folded it carefully, and left the hospital walking like a zombie. That night, while I was in Santa Fe at Ernest's house, drinking chamomile tea in the garden under the purple lilacs, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't know. I answered cautiously. "Mom?" It was Robert. His voice sounded broken. I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I know I don't deserve you to listen to me. I know I have no right to call you. But I need you to know something. You were right. About everything. I'm a failure, a coward, a bad son, and I'm going to have to live the rest of my life knowing that the only person who truly loved me, I almost killed her for money." Silence, then a sob. "I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I would give anything to go back in time and be different, be better." He hung up, and I stayed there with the phone in my hand, looking at the stars over Santa Fe, feeling something strange in my chest. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but maybe, someday, it could be peace. 3 months have passed since that morning I escaped the hospital. 3 months that feel like 3 years, like 3 different lives. Now I am sitting on the porch of Ernest's house in Santa Fe with a cup of hot chocolate in my hands and the afternoon sun bathing the garden of purple lilacs. I can hear Ernest in the kitchen humming a Frank Sinatra song while preparing dinner. It smells of chili, freshly made cornbread, home. This small two-bedroom house became my sanctuary. It has adobe walls painted ochre, red clay floors that creak softly when you walk, and large windows that let in the light and air. The garden that Ernest's wife planted years ago is now full of life. Lilacs, geraniums, aromatic herbs. I have added my own plants, basil, cilantro, a small bush of cherry tomatoes. The first week was difficult. I couldn't sleep. Every noise startled me. Every time the phone rang, my heart raced, thinking it was Robert, that he was coming for me, that somehow he had found this address. But Ernest was patient. He hugged me when I cried. He let me talk for hours about my pain, my guilt, my confusion. He never judged me, never said, "I told you so." "A mother's love never completely dies, Carrie," he told me one night as we looked at the stars from this very porch. "You can set boundaries, you can protect yourself, you can walk away, but that love will always be there, like a scar that no longer hurts, but remembers." He was right. In the second week, Lucy called me with the latest news. Vanessa had left Robert, just as she threatened. She went to Philadelphia with her cousin, and according to rumors, she was already dating another man, an engineer with money. She didn't waste time. Robert had to leave my house. Without my pension helping him, without Vanessa's income, he couldn't pay the utilities. The electricity was cut, then the water. The neighbors started complaining about the neglect. In the end, a judge ordered him to vacate the property because he was not the legal owner. The last I heard, he was living in a rented room in the Bronx, working as a food delivery driver through an app, earning barely $400 or $500 a day, pedaling a bicycle through the streets he once drove through in a car. When Lucy told me that, she waited for my reaction. I think she thought I would be happy, that I would feel satisfaction at his suffering. But I didn't feel any of that, just sadness. "Are you okay, Mrs. Carey?" she asked me. "Yes, honey, I'm okay. It's just that he's still my son, and even though he's no longer part of my life, I can't be happy about his pain." "That makes you a better person than he is," Lucy replied softly. A month after being in Santa Fe, Ernest proposed marriage to me. It was a simple afternoon, without much eloquence. We were watering the plants together when he suddenly knelt in front of me, his knees creaking from age, and pulled a simple white gold ring from his pocket. "Caroline Miller," he said, his eyes bright with emotion. "We have already lost too much time. We have already lived too many sorrows. Marry me. Let me spend the time we have left with you, whether it is much or little, but let it be together." I cried. Of course I cried. But this time it was tears of pure happiness. "Yes," I replied, 1,000 times yes. We got married 2 weeks later at the Santa Fe City Hall, a small, intimate ceremony. As witnesses, there were 2 of Ernest's neighbors who became my friends. Mr. Johnson, a 75-year-old man who sells bread at the market, and Mrs. Rodriguez, a 70-year-old woman who makes the best New Mexico green chili stew I have ever tasted. And Lucy. She traveled from New York City especially to be present. She was my maid of honor. I wore a simple ivory dress that we bought at the mall for $850. Ernest wore his only gray suit, the same one he wore to his first wedding 48 years ago. It didn't matter. It was the happiest day of my life. After the ceremony, we celebrated at the house with New Mexico green chili stew that I prepared with my own hands, rice, beans, and a red velvet cake that Mrs. Rodriguez made. We ate, we laughed, we danced to the sound of a country band that Mr. Johnson hired as a gift. That night, lying next to Ernest in our marital bed, looking at the wooden beam ceiling, I asked him, "Do you think I'm a bad person for abandoning my son?" Ernest took my hand in the darkness. "You didn't abandon your son, Carrie. Your son abandoned you first, many years before that hospital. You just made the decision to stop being his life raft when he was trying to sink you." "But I'm still his mother, and he's still your son. That will never change." "But being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It means loving, yes, but it also means teaching, And sometimes the best lesson is letting people face the consequences of their decisions. He was right, as always. 2 months after being in Santa Fe, I found a new purpose. Mrs. Rodriguez invited me to join a group of older women who met every Tuesday at the community center. The Silver Warriors, they called themselves. We were 12 women between 60 and 78 years old, all with similar stories. Widowed, abandoned, betrayed, but survivors. We started making crafts to sell at the market. I taught them how to make rag dolls using fabric scraps. Others taught embroidery, knitting, wood painting. With what we earned, we helped older women in the community who were in difficult situations, but I also started teaching traditional cooking classes, first in person, in the community kitchen. Then, with the help of Mrs. Rodriguez's granddaughter, who studies communications, we started recording videos. Carrie's Kitchen, we called the channel. We uploaded recipes for chili, pot roast, apple pie, sweetbreads. I told the stories behind each dish, the secrets my mother taught me, the techniques I learned in my years selling burritos. The channel grew, slowly but surely. First, 100 subscribers, then 1,000. Now we have 47,000 followers. It's not much compared to other channels, but for me, it's the whole world. Because every comment I read says things like, "My grandmother cooked like this. This recipe made me cry with nostalgia. Thank you for keeping our tradition alive." And some months we earn up to $8,500 from views and advertising, money that I add to my pension and that allows me to live with dignity without completely depending on Ernest. 3 weeks ago, I received a message on Instagram. It was from a young woman, maybe 30 years old. "Mrs. Carey, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to tell you that your channel saved my relationship with my grandmother. She's 72, and after my grandfather died, she fell into a terrible depression. She didn't want to cook, she didn't want to go out, she didn't want anything. One day I put on one of your videos, and something in her eyes changed. Now we cook your recipes together every Sunday, and my grandmother is smiling again. Thank you for giving me back my grandmother." I cried reading that message because I understood something. My life didn't end when I escaped that hospital. My life began. Yesterday, exactly 3 months after my escape, my phone rang. It was an unknown number from New York City. I answered with a racing heart. "Mom?" Robert again. This time I didn't hang up. I just waited. "I know I shouldn't call you. I know I have a restraining order, but I needed to tell you something." His voice sounded different, calmer, less desperate. "I got a real job, in a warehouse. It doesn't pay much, $7,200 every 2 weeks, but it's honest. I have a small but clean room. I'm going to therapy. A psychologist at the health center is treating me for free, and I'm trying to be a better person." Silence. "I'm not calling to ask you for anything. I'm not calling for you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that what you did, even though it hurt me, even though it destroyed me at the time, was the right thing to do. It was the only way I was going to hit rock bottom, the only way I was going to wake up." He swallowed. "I was a horrible son, a horrible human being, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that. Not with you, because I know you don't want me in your life anymore, but with the world, by being better, by doing better." My voice came out trembling when I finally spoke. "I'm glad you're well, Robert, truly." "Are you well, Mom? Are you happy?" I looked around. The garden with its lilacs, the house that was now my home, Ernest in the kitchen preparing dinner, my new life, peaceful, full of purpose. "Yes, son, I'm happy. For the first time in many years, I am completely happy." I heard a relieved sigh on the other end. "I'm glad. You deserve it. You always deserved it." A long pause. "Do you think someday in the distant future, we could talk again? Not like before. I know that's lost forever. But maybe, like two people who respect each other, who wish each other the best." I thought about my answer for several seconds. "Maybe, Robert, someday, when we have both healed, when you have shown, not with words but with actions, that you have truly changed, maybe then we can have a cup of coffee and talk like two adults." "Thank you, Mom. It's more than I deserve. Take care, son." "You too, Mom. And I love you, even if I don't have the right to say it anymore. I hung up and stared at the phone for a long time. Ernest came out onto the porch. He sat down next to me and hugged me. "Are you okay?" "Yes," I replied. And it was true. I am okay, because I understood something important. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing them to hurt you again. It doesn't mean going back to who you were before. Forgiving means letting go of the weight. It means letting go of the poison of anger. It means choosing your own peace over the other person's punishment. Someday, maybe in 1, 2, or 5 years, I will be able to see Robert again. Maybe we can have that coffee. Maybe we can build a new relationship, different, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. Or maybe not. Maybe this is all we will have: sporadic calls, brief conversations, a distant but real affection. And that's okay. Both options are okay. Because I no longer live waiting for my son to complete me. I no longer live defined by my role as a self-sacrificing mother. I no longer measure my worth by how much I can give until there is nothing left of me. Now, I live for myself, for Ernest, for my friends in the group, for the thousands of people who watch my videos and find a little piece of home in them. I'm 68 years old, and I finally learned the most important lesson of all. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to say enough is enough and build the life you deserve. Last night, while we were having dinner on the porch under the stars, Ernest took my hand and said, "You know what the most beautiful thing about all this is, Carrie? That we both thought our lives were over, that the best was already behind us, and it turns out the best part was just beginning." He's right. This morning I woke up with the sun streaming through the window, the birds singing, and the smell of coffee Ernest was making. I got up without rushing, put on my favorite cotton robe, and went out to the garden to water the plants. And as the water fell on the lilacs, I thought of something my mother told me many years ago, when I was just a little girl. "Honey, lilacs are like strong women. You can prune them, you can neglect them, you can count them as dead, but if they have strong roots, they always bloom again. Always." I bloomed again. At 68, after a stroke, after being betrayed by my own blood, after having to escape in an ambulance in the early morning, I bloomed. And if I could do it, you can too. Because it is never, ever too late to choose the life you deserve, to set boundaries, to say no, to walk away from those who hurt you, even if they are your own family. Your life belongs to you, your dignity belongs to you, your peace belongs to you, and no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it from you. Today is Saturday. Ernest and I went to the market early, as we do every weekend. We bought tomatoes, avocados, fresh chilies. Mrs. Rodriguez saved us the best chili stew takeout. Mr. Johnson gave us freshly baked cinnamon rolls. In the afternoon, I have cooking class. We are going to make traditional New Mexico green chili. I have everything ready, the chocolate, the chilies, the spices, and this time I'm going to tell my mother's story of how she taught me this recipe when I was just 10 years old. Tomorrow, Sunday, I will go to church. Not because I'm particularly religious, but because I like the community. I like sitting among my friends, singing the hymns, feeling like I belong to something bigger than myself. And on Monday, we start the embroidery workshop with the Silver Warriors. We are going to make tablecloths to sell at the town fair next month. This is my life now. Simple, peaceful, full of purpose, and true love. And if I could go back to that moment in the hospital when I heard Vanessa planning my death, and someone asked me, was it worth it? All this pain, all this betrayal, was it worth it? My answer would be yes, because that pain taught me something I would never have learned otherwise. That love for others should never cost you your self-love. That being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. That you can love someone and still protect yourself from them. And that true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you don't allow them to take from you. Your dignity, your peace, your right to be happy. No one can steal that from you unless you let them. I no longer allow it, and I hope you don't either, because life is too short to live it on your knees. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on your own life and your own relationships, leave me a comment telling me where you are listening from. Give it a like if you believe it is never too late to start over, and subscribe to this channel to keep hearing stories of brave women who dared to choose themselves. Because we all deserve to bloom, regardless of age, regardless of the past. We all deserve our own spring.